Here's 4 ways I found to stay motivated even though I have ADHD. I really struggle to focus sometimes, especially when I hop on social media early in the morning or start playing video games. It all goes out the window. But there's 4 things that have worked really well to get me past that stage and get me to where I'm at, which I consider to be my level 2. Number 1 is I have a why that I always come back to. Right now I'm putting it to words so it's really specific, but for the most part I know where I want to be in the next 10 years. And I continually ask myself if what I'm doing contributes to that 10-year goal, and if not, I consider doing something else. If you've seen King Richard, right, William's father, who wrote 78 pages of how his daughters were going to become pro tennis players, that's a good amount of specificity. But this is what I would recommend, and we're going to come up with your goal right now if you don't have one. Think about something you really want, and it can be as superficial as you want, like a Lamborghini. Think a little bit about the lifestyle surrounding you owning that car. Now, what if I said you had to achieve that goal in 1 year? That's a little overwhelming, isn't it? What if I said you have 20 years to achieve this goal? Would you still be happy with it in 20 years? Find a goal that seems too ambitious and then stretch the time horizon until it seemed like a really comfortable amount of time to achieve it. Then maybe add about 1 year, because we're all humans and we all have setbacks. And then you can be confident that that's a goal you're probably going to achieve. Lock in the year you want to achieve that goal. Make sure that you remember it. Now practice this for the rest of the day. Every time you're faced with a decision, ask if it leads towards that goal. Now you're using your end goal effectively to be able to make day-to-day decisions and stay motivated. The second thing is eliminating distractions from your environment. Now I have ADHD, so it's hard for me to focus to begin with. But if I set my environment up so that it all leads to that goal that I came up with in step 1, it becomes a lot easier for me to sit down and do work. There's a little bit of a pain where it's like, oh, I want to listen to music while I do this, or play a show. And it hurts a little bit to say, no, we can't do that. We got to focus on it. But then when I'm in the thick of it, as soon as I start working, I forget about that pain. And every single time it becomes easier and easier to just do the work. I consider it the dopamine source, the actual work, which leads me to step 3, controlling my dopamine. Me and my wife would used to go to bed and there would be 3 screens between us and the wall. There'd be the TV. Sometimes we'd be working on our laptops. She would have her iPad making goals and stuff. And then we'd have our phones playing some game. And it would be a flood of dopamine every night. And it's like an addiction, like a hit. Like we have to have it. And even still, it's hard for us to turn off the TV at night because we feel like,
hey, we've worked hard today. We haven't had a lot of dopamine. Just going to bed doesn't even seem right.
or maybe you tell yourself,
Oh, it's how I relax. It's how I set myself up to go to sleep, is by playing a movie.
that's what I used to tell myself. Now we have a rule. If we're gonna have any screens at all, it's only one screen and it gets turned off at a certain time. This makes it so that I can wake up a lot earlier and get a lot more work done. Since my wife's now pregnant, she sleeps a lot more, which is a lot healthier. I've deleted social media multiple times because I keep having to download it to post and then I forget and I'll scroll. And on days when I scroll, especially early in the morning, the rest of the day just sucks. Even though it's kind of hard at first, if I cut those out, it becomes easier to go without them and it becomes a lot more fun to do the things that build a business, earn money, etc. By not introducing dopamine, you're going to be a lot more motivated. Now the third thing is rules. There's a lot of little rules that combine that make it so that I'm on track automatically, so I don't have to necessarily worry about motivation. As a rule, I do a certain number of hours of editing in a day. I do a certain number of hours of work. I have to earn a certain amount of money. I always plug my phone in outside the room. Then it's not even about motivation. It's about, did I check the goal off? Am I the kind of person I'm trying to prove myself to be? I've made so many of these little rules that at first it seems like it's overwhelming, but now that they're all just habits, I'm automatically living at a much higher level, and that's why I consider myself level 2. I'm gonna give you a few examples real quick. I told you about the phone one. I turn the phone on to silent mode and I plug it in the bathroom so I'm not even looking at it and I'm not getting radiation. The TV turns off at a certain time and we switch to books, which sometimes is a little bit hard because we're watching a really exciting, like, 24 or something that's adrenaline. But when we switch to books, we're able to wind down. If I read at night, even if it's like 8 p.m., I will get super drowsy and I will sleep great. Every single time I eat, I log the food into MyFitnessPal. They're not sponsored or anything. They just have a really good free version. I haven't found anything as good as it. Hey, MyFitnessPal, sponsorship right here if you want. I don't plan on doing ads, but I can talk about you a little bit. Part of that is every single day I have to have at least 200 grams of protein. And sometimes I start eating just like peanut butter just to get that last bit of protein in. But my muscle growth has improved drastically. It's been the deciding factor in me actually putting on muscle mass, even though I haven't been able to for years before this. As a rule, every time me or my wife gets paid, we put that money straight into savings and tithing, and we split it up before we actually use any of the money, and we act like we didn't even get paid. Right now, we're taking about 30 to 40% off before we even use it, and that's after taxes has been taken out. So it's a little bit hard because we'll see the numbers of like $1,200 and we'll say, okay, we probably have $600 of that to actually use. That rule's taking a little bit longer for us to get used to, but I feel like once it's in place, savings is going to be automatic, especially once we start making more serious income. It's going to be pretty good. That's my theory. Anyways, that's how I stay motivated, or fake motivation. If you want to see how it turns out, just keep watching the rest of the videos. This is going to be one of the early ones, I suppose. But anyways, thanks for watching and have a good one.